Hi, everyone. This is Kerristen, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Relocate Podcast. I want to especially thank those who are tuning in for the very first time. You may have looked at the name of this podcast and thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool. A podcast that's going to break down everything I need to know about moving as far as logistics are concerned. I mean, how do I find a place to live? How do I obtain a work permit? Things of that nature. If you came here for that, I usually have guests each week, and we break down their story and their takeaways from moving, and they may mention that. But I want to be transparent as possible. And in the spirit of transparency and being motivated by my own lived experience of relocating to various states within the US, I felt a sense of uh, inner transformation from the psychological aspect. And I feel like a lot of people, they speak about the external uh, impl- implications of relocating, but not really what's happening internal. So today I'm speaking from the heart. I want to talk a little more about what I like to think of as the psychology of relocating. This is the inspiration and the force that's behind the Relocate podcast. And I just want to speak to that a little bit more. Yeah, let's just keep it a buck. I mean, when we talk about moving, everyone's first thought is the stress of packing up your whole life into boxes and trying to figure out which friend actually, I don't know, owns a truck. But let's be real, that's just surface level. No one really prepares you for how moving somewhere new doesn't just change your address, it straight up transforms how you move throughout the world. So you don't realize how many assumptions you're walking around with until you land somewhere new and realize everything you thought was just how things are is actually just how things were where you came from. Hope that landed, hope that stuck, but no worries, gonna dive a little bit deeper because it hit me when I first moved and tried to build new friendships. Because back home, if you had an opportunity to check out my episode of the Relocate podcast, episode 10, I mentioned I'm from a small town of 500 people in South Carolina, and we value community so much because there really isn't a lot going on in the town. Um, so that was just my assumption about the world outside of my little town. So, so I try to build new friendships whenever I left my little bubble and I moved to bigger cities. And back home, everybody just knew the vibes. Like you show up to someone's house or event, mutual friends may come. You just connect with people. And when I mean connect, I mean from a personal level, not so much from a professional level. But in some of the new cities I relocated to, people were scheduling coffee dates. They were booking a conference room. That had me questioning everything I thought I knew about building connections. And don't even get me started on what running late means in different places. In some cities, being 15 minutes late is still technically on time. If you know, you know. But try that in other spots, and people are already sending the "is everything okay" text or email, or I guess depending on where you're located and however communication is the norm, right? Neither way is wrong. It's just different. But understanding that is when your mind really starts to open up. The way your everyday life shifts when you move is wild, for real. Like moving from a place where you need a car to survive to somewhere with actual public transportation, that's just not about how you get around. It changes your whole relationship with your community. And I just want to give a shout out to everyone I've had on this podcast so far. Yeah, everyone's stories have shaped my way of thinking about the psychology of relocating. Yeah. So yeah, instead of just driving from point A to point B, you're actually walking through your neighborhood, running into people, finding out about the hidden gem of a coffee shop that doesn't even show up on Google reviews or Yelp. Your whole routine just transforms. And suddenly, you're that person who has a favorite fruit vendor at the local market, or you're meeting with neighbors for rooftop hangs instead of backyard barbecues. So, this is where it gets deep because moving somewhere new forces you to really examine what you value and why. Maybe you came from a place where everyone was on their hustle 24/7. Yeah, hustle culture, just grinding towards that next promotion. And now you may be somewhere people prioritize having time to actually live life, or you're moving to a place that prioritizes uh, life over work standards. So at first, you may feel like you're falling behind because you're not matching that same energy from back home. But then you start questioning, who said that that was the only way to win? Why did I think success had to look like that specific thing? It's like when you realize your new spot might not have the same brunch culture you're used to, but instead people are big on community gardens or weekend hiking groups. You start seeing different ways to build community, different ways to define what matters. So here's the thing about having your whole perspective challenged, because once you start questioning one thing, you can't help but look at everything differently. It's like getting a new pair of glasses and suddenly realizing you weren't seeing clearly before. You become more adaptable, more open to different ways of doing things. You start to pick up and choose the best parts of both your old and new life to create something that's authentically you. And the way you relate to people back home changes too, because you become a bridge between different worlds, able to see value in different approaches to life. So the bottom line, moving isn't just about finding a new spot to lay your head. It's a whole journey of self-discovery. It's about realizing that what you thought was the right way to do things is just one way among many. It's about growing into a version of yourself that's more aware, more intentional, and more understanding of different perspectives. And let me tell you, while this journey isn't always smooth and cupcakes and rainbows, because trust, there'll be days where you miss how things used to be. I know for me, I've been gone. I left South Carolina 7 years ago, and it took me maybe 5 years to gain my bearings and not think about home so much and how things used to be. So yeah, while the journey is not always smooth, it is worth it. It's worth it because at the end of the day, you're not just changing locations, you're expanding your whole understanding of what's possible in life. So if you're in the middle of your journey right now, regardless of if you're in that journey for 3 months or 3 years or 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it may be, If you feel like everything you knew has been turned upside down, that is exactly where the growth happens. So lean into it, question everything, and watch yourself evolve into someone who sees the world in high definition. And one more thing, relocating, it people may look at it and think about moving into an apartment or moving into a house. I've heard and seen so many unique experiences that we just can't limit ourselves. And sometimes life may throw curveballs. You may be in a situation where you might be unhoused, um, in a RV, in a van. Uh, there's all sorts of ways that people may be experiencing relocation, and this podcast in the future is definitely going to highlight that. And I think that everyone should be a little graceful when it comes to their experience. No experience is the same. We're all unique in our journeys. So, with that being said, I want to thank you for your time. If you're interested in being a guest on my podcast, on the Relocate Podcast, I definitely want you to visit my website and fill out the guest questionnaire. I want to learn more about you. And if this message resonated with you, I hope that you follow, like, share, subscribe. This platform is on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I post new episodes every Wednesday, Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. So that may be Thursday if you're in Australia and some other places around the world. So let's connect. If you have any topics or any requests, wanting to hear from maybe people from a certain walk of life, please reach out to me through email, or you can add a comment to this episode or any other episodes that you see. And yeah, let's connect. I definitely want to make this platform as intentional as possible, but I don't want to lead people astray. On social media, some people, they may advertise like how to move to this country in 30 days. And I mean, that's great and all, but I want to embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how people are able to persevere through that, because packing boxes is just the beginning. It's just the beginning to a long journey. So give yourself some grace. Have a great day, and I will hopefully see you next week. Bye.